Welcome back to another THI podcast here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and joining me is our director of basketball recruiting, which includes the portal, and also our analyst, longtime college, AAU, and high school coach, Mr. David Siskin. David, we are hopping on at almost 11 p.m. I was out finally being a dad, doing something with my daughter, and all of a sudden, boom, commitment time in the portal. Jon Pal, 6'6", 191 pounds from West Virginia, played 1 year with the Mountaineers. He has 3 years of eligibility remaining. He is a native of Centerville, Ohio. Very quickly, 8.3 points a game, 3.1 rebounds, almost an assist, 35.2% from three-point range, averaged 30 minutes a game, 64 for 102 from three. So that's a healthy sample size. So, David, you had information earlier that we reported on our board about a Zoom call that Jon Pal had with UNC. It went very, very well. So kind of take it from there.
Yeah, in fact, we kind of got on this last week, toward the end of the week. Tom Droney, who's a longtime confidant of mine who I know well from his AAU days. We've covered, even when I was covering other teams, several of his players. He coached the Wildcat Select for years, covered a lot of his players. So it was good to get back in touch with him. And I got to talk to him last week once we found out that North Carolina had been in touch with Powell. Powell played for him. And he said, look, this is going to go very quickly. And I think that when they say that right now, there's two dates. I think maybe a lot of them want to get it done before the dead period, which starts Thursday. They would like to get that out of the way because they can't take visits. So they want to get these visits done. And although he, had a Zoom call today, but there's also in a lot of these conferences, we're going to start getting into the money that the conference allots rather to the teams on the 7th. So you get that. So there's a lot of move this year to get by a lot of these players to get done early. So we said it would be a quick process. I talked to him yesterday and said, hey, how is things going with Jonathan with North Carolina? And he said, we got a Zoom call. We'll find out how serious they are in the morning at 11 o'clock. I texted him this afternoon. He said it went well. Really can't go into details, but it went well. And he texted me right before I got in touch with you tonight. He said, done deal. And that was his 2 words. So that's when we knew that it happened. So Zoom call this morning. I think that's really when they went over the business end of it. This was not a relationship build. It was not, hey, how's the family doing? It was, they got down to strict negotiations. He liked what he heard, and he's the first player, like you said, in the 25 transfer portal class from North Carolina.
So when I look at his game, and I look at the fact he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining, I'm not sure he's a step in and start guy. I have no idea if that was communicated. I think that he's a healthy piece.
Yes.
And all really good teams, all the teams that are still playing, all have very healthy pieces that get a lot of time off the bench. He could end up being starter. We don't know. But I think at the very minimum, he's considered a very valuable piece. Some of the things he does well. You and I spoke for a few minutes on the phone before I went and sent you the link to do this video, and you mentioned his defense. I want to talk about that before we go into his offensive stuff, because the offensive stuff will take longer. I don't know much about him as a defensive player. What have you learned?
Well, trying to put some of this together, and I think you've got to take it in context to maybe what the roster looks like. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to find out about some of it. Is Trimble going to come back? Is Ian Jackson going to come back? Is Drake Powell going to come back? But when we look at a Catchings, who we think they're in pretty good shape for, you look at a guy that was 6'6", 6'9", now really long, and they've got that length on the perimeter, a good defender. And I think you look at Powell as a smaller version. He's 6'6". So you're probably looking at somebody playing the 2, the 3, probably versatile in there, playing both. But like you say, you've got length there. You've got some athleticism who can do that. He was in, and I'm sorry, excuse me while I scroll here, but he was in the 92nd percentile in defensive impact. So outside of, he was in the 99th percentile in turnovers, and that's a lack of turnovers. So he protected the ball, but his next best category out of really about 15, 16 major categories was defensive impact. So he was very good there, like you said. So it seems that they're really looking at some guys who can provide a lot on that side of the ball. Almost every guy that they've been serious with so far in the portal seems to me like they're really good defenders.
Good defenders who can close out, and they could defend you on the wing and stay with you if you drive. That's something that was a massive problem this year. Another thing that was occasionally a problem but got better late when they got bigger and actually had more space was perimeter shooting. That's something that this kid did a lot of his freshman year. He shot 35.2%, 64 for 182. It's a really good sample size. Like I noted, not many free throws. He only attempted 25 free throws playing 30 minutes a game. So maybe one reason there weren't a lot of turnovers because he didn't drive. He wasn't much of a creator, didn't average a lot of assists. But one thing he could do, he could spread the floor. And when you watch him, just his game video, not just the highlights, he knows how to find open spots. He makes himself available. He can come off screens, and he's got a really quick release, David. He's got NBA range. A lot of his threes are 2, 3, 3.5 feet behind the line, and he's got a very quick release. I think with your Hubert Davis, and you're thinking about the way you want to craft things, having a guy who's 6'6" and can defend and get after it, but on the other end of the court can make a team pay on kickouts, on second chance opportunities, on offensive rebounds, and just running your offense, a quick catch and shoot guy can be huge for this team. They thought they were getting one in the portal last year, and it didn't work out just yet. So maybe they see this as a version of delivering what they thought Cade Tyson would give them.
I think three-point specialist would be a proper phrase. You said 64 of 182 on his three-point attempts. I'll throw one more number on there, and that's 251. 100 is 82 out of 251 shots last year were three-pointers attempts. So he shot, if my math's correct, he shot 182 threes. He shot 69 twos. Yeah. So almost 3-to-1.
That's why there are the 25 free throw attempts, 30 minutes a game and 30 games or whatever.
Guys like that, unless you're very undisciplined defensively, you want to run over a three-point shooter. They don't get on the line a lot. So three-point specialist, 3 and D, there's always a demand for that. He could probably kind of, I would say, from the limited things I've seen so far, kind of fits that role. Now, the chance to grow, and I think that's it. I think if he was a guy who had 3 years already under his belt, I don't know that North Carolina would go in this direction. And that's not a knock on him, but I think a lot of him is development. Like I said, the number, I really like to look at the percentiles and look at all this. There were a couple of categories, like we said, where he was high. There were 10 major categories where he was under the 50th percentile: assist, rebounding, scoring volume, offensive impact. So there's a lot of areas he needs to grow his game. Yeah. So that will be the task of the coaching staff to do that. So, but he brings some very good things with him. Like we said, he's good defensively and shoot the ball from outside. So you can always use both of those. So what the coaches want to do are build up. We don't know if they're weaknesses or not, but they're not strong points, but build them up and get as many as he can. The good news is he's only played 1 year. He's got 3 years left. So they've got time to do that. So I think that's one thing, too, why you would look at him being a piece probably off the bench is he's got things he can do to help the team, but they have time. This is a developmental piece, too, I think, where they have time to grow his game and he could become more effective and more effective and more effective. And I'll say this, too. Not watching enough of West Virginia, you never know how he was used there compared to what North Carolina wants to do. And one thing that I've noticed, I watch a lot of these guys that come out of the portal and schools that I cover, and you'll watch them at their old school, and there's a reason they left. A lot of these guys, they're not part of the offense. The offense is not free-flowing. They kind of get stuck in the corner away from the ball. And then when you put them in an offense where they're moving and some things revolve around them, they look like totally different players. So I need to see more of that to see if that's an impact. But like I said, right now, there's things he does well. There's things he needs to improve on. The good part is outside of that shooting and defense is he's a young player and they've got time to work on him.
And if you're him, he was outside the top 100 as a high school senior, and that was a year ago. So he's only 1 year in. And he now has a chance to go somewhere that didn't recruit him, didn't even give him a second glance in high school. And he goes there with 30 minutes a game experience in the Big 12 for a good team.
Yeah.
For a team that if the coach's son doesn't get hurt or however they decide to do with him, that's clearly an NCAA tournament team. And that was the club everybody thought should have gotten in over North Carolina. So it wasn't a bad club playing in the Big 12. There's a ton that he brings to the table for North Carolina, even as a reserve, an experienced sophomore who's a bit of a project, who's a work in progress. I think that's a really, really good piece for Hubert Davis to add because he's a guy that's been on all the stages. If you go look at the highlights and stuff, he played in Allen Fieldhouse. He played against Arizona, obviously. He's in a really, really good league. They play a quality non-conference schedule. So this isn't a situation where you're bringing in somebody from the Missouri Valley Conference and then people say, oh, he's not adapting. This kid's already adapted. The speed of the game, the size of the game, all that stuff's not going to be an issue to him. He now has an opportunity to have a pace in his basketball career to grow at North Carolina and do so on a massive, massive stage. So I think this is a nice pickup. And for him, it seems like a really cool move and a good move. I think it's a nice pickup for Hubert as well.
Let me say this too. I don't want it to make it sound like you look at him and you think, well, he's on down the road. He's not going to contribute. Now, I think he's going to – they bring him in to contribute. I don't think – I'm going to be honest. I don't know that Hubert Davis is in a situation to bring a guy in and say, we're going to wait 3 years. You know, he needs, after this past year, he needs results. But I think also when you look, like we say, there's a lot of question marks. You've asked me a lot of questions today through text on trying to find out from some people about who's going to be back, who's not going to be back, because there's been silence around a lot of these guys. And you're waiting to see. So who knows? And Carolina fans certainly don't hope that this is the case. And we don't know. So I'm not making any innuendos here. But who knows?
Yeah. Well,
let me 2 weeks and you may have guys gone that you thought might not leave. And all of a sudden he's more than just a piece, man. He's absolutely in the top of the mix. So he comes in right now. Like I said, we don't know what the finished product on this roster is going to look like or really how much of a role he's got and how he fits. We got an idea, but, you know, the roster we think might be there next year might not come to fruition at all. You know, we need to wait and see what Ian Jackson and Drake Powell and Seth Trimble, some of these other guys are going to do. And that's what his role is kind of on the size. You're looking at Trimble, you're looking at Jackson. Jackson 6'6", played 2. You're looking at Trimble, probably will play more point next year if he comes back because that's gone, but he's played a lot of the 2. So you're talking about a guy that kind of comes in there in similar positions that with 2 other guys that we're waiting to hear from.
And let me clarify. When I say work in progress, I'm talking about becoming what he's ultimately going to become.
Right,
Like there's time for him to add a couple layers next year, a couple layers the year after. That's kind of what I mean. But absolutely,
there's nobody that's recruited to come to North Carolina who they don't think is going to be a really good player. I mean, this is North Carolina. It's not, Podunk State. So, you don't bring scrubs into North Carolina. So if they're recruiting him, he's got talent. Now the thing is there's a standard. And I keep saying it. I know I was probably hard on the team last year, and I don't take any of that back. I think if you're North Carolina, and I think the fans will agree with me, there is a standard at the University of North Carolina that has to be lived up to by coaches and players and everybody else.
And Jonathan Powell will now attempt to be a part of that standard at Carolina. One thing I should add that I didn't mention before, he's a perimeter threat everywhere on the perimeter, from corner to corner. That's one of the things that really jumped out as well watching his film is there's catch and pop from everywhere, from the wing, from literally the corner, top of the key. He's a guy that you've got to keep an eye on. He's not someone that's just going to stand in the spot and get kickouts. There are a lot of places on the floor he can score from. So he's definitely someone that will help this team. And when you can get a 6'6" guy that can stretch it like this, and I'm talking 23 feet, 22, 23, he's got a lot of range consistently. So that'll be interesting to watch how he fits in. He's David. I'm AJ. We're going to have more of these coming up because the Tar Heels are not at all close to being done in the basketball portal. Make sure you stay with TarHeelIllustrated.com for all of your coverage. Carolina basketball, Carolina portal. David has been crushing it in the portal, spot on with so much stuff, and you can only get it if you're a member of THI. For David, I'm AJ. We appreciate you stopping by.